Welcome to Mom Boss Chronicles, the show that celebrates the incredible journey of mom bosses who are conquering the world of business and motherhood. We are your hosts, Jen,
Danielle, and Sue.
Make sure to like and subscribe and share with your mom friends today. Welcome back, everyone, to Mom Boss Chronicles. Today, I have a really special guest. This is Liz Hobin. Liz and I go back to high school. This is like my high school bestie.
Oh, I love
Isn't that awesome?
Old Bridge in the house,
Yeah,
right?
yep.
I'm from Sayreville, so we're like, yeah.
Yeah.
Neighbors.
I know. And we
Yep.
graduated the same year?
Yeah.
01?
Yeah,
Yeah.
01.
Isn't that funny?
Mhm.
I feel like we must have crossed paths somehow.
I'm sure. Like at like a party in the woods.
Yeah, something.
Yeah, Hunka Bunka for sure.
Oh, Hunka Bunka for sure. Yeah.
Nice.
But Liz and I have a really sweet, special bond. You know, we survived high school together. And
Love that.
Liz now lives in upstate New York, so there's distance between us, but we've always kept in touch. And I'm just so grateful that you're on the podcast today because I feel like you have a really awesome message to share with people, and I'm grateful that you're going to. Liz is a breast cancer survivor.
Yes.
And, you know, how old were you when you got diagnosed?
36.
I remember when you got diagnosed being like, oh my God, like people are getting cancer. Like it did.
Well, yeah. It doesn't, like you don't think anyone in their 30s is going to get cancer.
No, and I had no like real family history or anything that would make me think like
high risk.
Happened to me at this age. Like just, not a clue. But
yeah. And like I guess how did you find out that it was?
Well, I don't want to make this whole story. It's a long story. Started with the birth of my daughter and, a lot of like right after she was born in 2017, October.
Okay.
And I just had like a rash after she was born. And, the doctors kept telling me I was probably hormonal, like no big deal.
Yeah, you just keep your body. Yeah,
exactly. All the things. I mean, that, it's just whatever. So I just thought it was something I'm going through.
Mm-hmm.
It'll go. But then it just continued and it got worse, almost like sunburn. And then I had started getting muscle weakness. And then I really knew like something's wrong with my body. So I wound up seeing a rheumatologist because, someone had suggested that I work with like, oh, maybe it's autoimmune, maybe it's lupus, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's all in the same category, but it was an autoimmune called dermatomyositis. And one of the things the rheumatologist did say to me was at my age, another, weird, rare thing to happen at my age, but you should get like, you should get a mammogram, you should get a pap smear because, I've never really seen this
in your 30s, right?
Yeah. Without there being an underlying malignancy or cancer.
Oh, interesting.
So I was like freaked out. Uh-huh. And this was probably early 2018. So I was already like freaking out like, oh my gosh, I have cancer somewhere.
Yeah.
I went through everything. Like I got the mammogram.
You did what they told you to.
Everything they told me to do. And the only response that I got back from the mammogram was, you have dense breast tissue.
Okay.
And this is like super, super common. A lot of women. But because dense breast tissue, it is what it says it is. It's the tissue there is so dense that the mammogram has a hard time seeing any kind of change in the cells. So, right. And so it's not mammogram for dense breast tissue is not like the best way to see in very small areas. Mm-hmm. So it's possible that at this time I had already been brewing something
and they couldn't see it.
But I didn't take it that way. I said, oh, it's clear. Great.
My doctor said it's okay. It's okay.
Right. The doctor said it was fine. Even my OBGYN, when I went to him and asked for the script for the mammogram, he was very like, you're so young. You have no family history. And then basically he was like, the letter said, there's a very 12% chance of you even getting breast cancer.
Wow.
It literally said 12%.
In 2018, that's it.
You take that and you run with it.
Yes.
So you're like, all right, so in 2 more years, I'll have another mammogram, which it's suggested to have another one in 2 years. And it was like really, I had it done January 2018 and it was a little late, February of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing, a self-check. Or actually I was like very sore in that area and it had been on and off, but I kind of, again, ignored it. But this time I felt a lump.
Oh, wow.
So I was like freaking out.
Yeah.
Of course. And even then, like, it was very hard for me to get an appointment. Finally got with OBGYN that was, I didn't know her. And she was like, oh, it's so large and seemed to happen so fast. It's probably just a cyst. Like, again, I mean, they're trying to be positive.
I know.
But I'm like, okay, I'm freaking out,
I know.
So, I mean, and then I got a phone call. It was a Thursday, and I got the phone call on Monday, and I was like, all right, that was really fast because,
So did you do a mammogram?
Right.
So
oh, I'm sorry.
no,
I'm
that's
sorry.
okay. No, that's okay. That's right. So
So at that point with the lump,
Yeah.
she had me do another mammogram.
Yep.
And they basically said there is something there, and we need. It looks suspicious, so we need to look into it more. So I did that. I did an ultrasound with the biopsy, and the biopsy came back. That biopsy was a Thursday, and I got the phone call Monday.
You have to wait all these days
from an OBGYN. I didn't know. I refused to let anybody go with me because I'm like, obviously I'm going in. He wants me to come in. He won't tell me the results over the phone. Like, I know what this is going to be. Yeah. I just didn't know how bad it was or not bad it was. So I just went there by myself, and this old, very nice gentleman, older gentleman doctor that just gave me the news, and he could just tell he felt so bad, but he got me in to see the right people. And this up here, we have this big company called Crystal Run, and I just did all my tests there for the most part. But I got a second opinion at Sloan Kettering, and I decided to finish my treatment there.
And this is all during COVID too. So as this is happening,
right? And this is simultaneously.
I'm not even thinking about that.
This is simultaneously happening as things are starting to shut down all over the country. And I'm thinking, if I don't go to Sloan Kettering, I'm going to be in like a place that has like thousands of sick patients.
Yeah.
With COVID. And that was really like my deciding factor. I mean, I luckily avoided COVID the entire time.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I got it after my treatment. It wasn't that bad for me, thank God. But yeah, so that's what I went through as far as, getting diagnosed.
And then right away, did they tell you it was aggressive, right? Like what you had?
They told me it was aggressive, that it was stage 2.
Wow.
They didn't see anything after like all the scans and everything. They didn't see anything that had spread to my lymph nodes. But because it was so large, I had to go through chemo. I had to go through, either a lumpectomy. If you have the lumpectomy, you have to do radiation. If you do not have a lumpectomy.
What is that? A lumpectomy?
They would just go in and just take the area that they would take the lump out.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Also take any affected tissue in the area.
Okay.
So they would just remove just part of, breast tissue, not the whole thing.
Yeah.
But when I went to Sloan, they reviewed the MRI that I have, and the MRI showed another spot on the same breast. So it was like, by the time they take out, both of them, I'm like, what am I going to have left? So let's just take it all.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be lopsided, so let's just take the side. And at that point, I was just like, all right, just do implants and,
Yeah.
Because you go on, basically, you're thinking, okay, I could just replace them. It's not that big a deal. They're just breasts.
Yeah.
It's not that easy, but it's better than dying, right?
Well, that's a good positive outlook to have, because I don't know, like me, myself, I don't know if I'd probably, it's hard to not feel down about it. Right. But you have to stay positive, like, right.
Well, yeah, you have to stay positive. Yeah. And when you feel like, you don't have, you think like, I didn't want to go through this again. Yeah. And I didn't want to go to radiation if I didn't need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just like, you know what? I just pushed through it.
Yeah.
And it's just, you keep going because it's really when it's all over, sometimes that it hits you.
Yeah.
What you went through.
Because when you're going through it, you're just going and going and going and doing what you have to do
to survive.
Right.
Yes.
So, and you're just doing what the doctors and nurse practitioners and everybody else tells you to do. And so, that's honestly, post-treatment sometimes is harder than treatment itself.
The dust settles.
Yeah.
Really actually thinking about it.
Yeah. The treatment is hard on your body. The treatment is, physically hard. But again, like you just keep doing.
You went through how many weeks of chemo?
It was months. It was like, I would say 4 months.
Wow. So that's a long time. And you have
April, May, June, July. Yeah. Like 5 months. And then the 6th month that it was the surgery. Like they had to, they had to stop for a little bit, take a break so that I could have surgery for the double mastectomy. And then at that point I had gotten implants, but they failed. One of them, I went back to work, and one of them, there was an abscess in it, and I didn't even know I had it. It was just like sore, and then I had a fever, and
oh no,
a whole hospitalization. Doctor had to like cut it out of me.
Oh my, it was
God.
Without anesthesia, because this was Sloan Kettering. It's a great hospital, but he numbed the area, obviously.
But still, but it was very traumatic.
It was very like emergent, and it scared me to death. So here I am, just flat. And I have my prosthetics, which is fine. But a lot of people do think, oh, breast cancer, like it's fine. You'll just get new boobs. You'll get implants. They are not the same as implants. That's something
because they take all the tissue out, right?
And I know it's a good way to, you want to stay positive, but people should be aware it is not the same thing.
Yeah.
Because they take all the tissue, all the nerve endings. I'm glad, like, I'm not ungrateful. I'm glad to be alive.
Yeah.
It's not the same when you hug someone. Your breasts, like, I know this is like maybe too much TMI, but your breasts are against them. You feel them. It's something you feel. You don't feel them anymore once your breasts are removed. And even when you have the implants, you don't feel it.
Yeah. It's
all your tissue is gone.
Wow.
So it's just like plastic sitting there too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like, it is losing a body part. There was
Did anybody warn you about that? Does anybody warn you?
No. Well, I mean, they told me they take the nerve endings, but nobody really talks about emotional stuff with you, because I think they're trying to save you from just because you're already going through so much. You know what I mean? Like they just want, I don't know.
Want to bring, I know.
Afterwards, I talked about it. There was a support group online that I joined because, you couldn't.
So COVID.
Yeah. You see people having chemo and they're surrounded by a bunch of other people in a room. No, I mean, we were isolated, very isolated. So I didn't have a support group at Sloan, like, just fine too. There was online people, and that has good and bad too. Online.
Imagine. Yeah.
There's a lot of bad stories, and the bad stories pick it up.
Yeah. Like it's hard, right? Such a fine line.
But it's a great resource. So if you have questions, they're very helpful, when you're going through something like that you can find somebody that, you can relate to what you're going through.
Yeah, having any sort of like support system in that capacity, that is,
and especially when somebody relates, because Liz is a mom of 3, and I'm sure it was hard for you to even explain to your kids or your spouse or anybody who doesn't understand.
How did your kids, kind of take it or understand, or how did you manage?
My oldest is an old soul. That's Jen's goddaughter.
Pat,
she's
love her.
Old soul, and she's really understanding and caring. Although the sight of blood just freaks her out. But she was like, she was very sympathetic and just, just a sweetheart. Obviously worried, but she carried, you got to be careful with your kids because, they carry worry different too. Yeah. So I was checking in on them. And, I know that she went through something post-COVID. Plus he was hitting her. So there was a lot going on at once, but she was really tough with it. My middle one was still young. She was like 3. And then my youngest was like a year old. He barely remembers. I mean, they all like, when I lost my hair, it was like, oh, mommy's bald. But it was like, and they look back at pictures, oh, that's when you had no hair. But I have to remind them why I had no hair. So I think that my first, my oldest was a little more affected than anything.
Totally.
But she's fine, she's fine now. And she's, prepared in the future, like, unfortunately, but, to make sure she's doing her checks and
listening to her body.
To get checked out, listening to her body. Yep.
Because it's wild for your story that you started out as an autoimmune, right? Your body, I feel like, was giving you warnings.
Right. I remember calling my rheumatologist and he's like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm just, he's like thinking I was going to be upset. And I was like, no, I'm just happy we found the underlying cause.
I know. Because is now that autoimmune better, right?
It's
not great, right? So
it was on steroids and like it had its own set of chemo drugs to fight autoimmune. And it was fighting it. But I didn't realize what the underlying cause was, you know. So I was just putting Band-Aids on it, and
until it came to a head. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people don't think about that too, but my body was trying to tell me like something is wrong.
Yeah.
Something's out of whack.
Listen.
So, just listen to me, but I don't know. I mean, this is what I will say, if anybody is listening that has any concerns about their breasts and they're told they have dense breast tissue, is that they should push for an MRI. I mean, especially if they're having pain in that area, or any kind of weird feeling in that area, even if they don't feel a lump.
Yep.
Because if you feel a lump, the mammogram is going to see the lump.
Yeah.
If you don't feel the lump and it's very small, it could be like, a cluster of cells, that the mammograms may not pick it up because you have dense breast tissue. I'm not going to say the MRI for your breast is a pleasant thing, but if you've been through a mammogram, that's not great either. Right. But it's very, it's much clearer, but it's much more expensive for the insurance. And for the physician to write that order, and he needs it to be covered by insurance. So it's hard for women to get an MRI of their breasts.
That's the stuff that drives me crazy though. Why do we have to fight so hard? No one knows better than yourself. You knew something was wrong, right? And I mean, I had my first mammogram last year as I turned 40, and I have dense breasts as well, as little as they are. But they did at least send me back for ultrasound, right? So like a second look, right? That made me feel better, right? Yeah. Like at least there's a second layer here. But I don't understand in this world why women, and it feels like it's just women, always constantly have to fight harder to have the
better access.
Right. Like, I don't care if it costs more money for the insurance company. Like, I don't care.
It's what's best for my body.
And it's like, I appreciate, like, I hate that you had to go through additional, testing and all these other things. But thank God, you finally got to the underlying cause. But I feel like this is a story we hear so often, and it feels like it only happens to women where, like, their concerns get dismissed.
Yeah.
No, even I mean, like, I'm in my 30s, no, we should actually be getting mammograms as early as probably 30 at this point. And
no, I think they are trying to lower the age now, because there's some women in their 30s developing breast cancer.
I know, and I've seen it, and I feel like I've noticed it more. And what is it? And they don't know, right? Like, what
could in our environment, right? Our food, our
was it genetic for you?
So many things. For years, it was like, well, there's basically three receptors on breast cancer. One is progesterone, and estrogen, and the other one's estrogen. And then the third one is something called HER2, which is not a hormone at all. Well, it's not like a reproductive hormone like estrogen and progesterone. It's nothing to do with being pregnant. But this HER2, they don't know what causes it. And then some women actually have no receptors, and that's where you might have heard the term triple negative breast cancer. That's the one that has no receptors, and it's the hardest to fight because there's no medications for it. Like, if you have a receptor, there's like the basic chemo that everybody with breast cancer gets, and then there's meds that follow along with that.
Yeah.
That fight that specific type. But if you have triple negative, there's nothing else after, like, that basic chemo.
And that happens to some people?
Yeah, a lot. It's very cool. Actually, I work with two women, and we're all about the same age, give or take 2-3 years. One was diagnosed before me with stage 3, and hers is hormonal.
Wow.
I had the HER2 positive, and the one that was just diagnosed last year, she's in her early 40s. She is triple negative. So, I mean, I've seen it, and we're all young. We're all very young. This was, it's definitely something that people need to, address as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And women shouldn't be. I feel like there's so many treatments for breast cancer. Is a lot of times the women that are dying from it, they're not catching it in time.
Yeah, that's a problem, right?
Yeah. And it's spreading too fast.
And Liz is a nurse. How amazing, right? Like, she was obviously a nurse before this, and then is still a nurse. So as a nurse, would you say, was that beneficial or harmful going through all this? Like, in talking to doctors, did you feel like you knew too much, or did it help you advocate?
Sometimes I knew too much. Like, I was terrified of surgery. I had never had surgery before my mastectomy. Never. I was terrified. I was like, infection and
because as a nurse, what could go wrong?
All these things going through my head, so that was not helpful. And then adding COVID into it really affected me, because I was sitting at home just like watching my coworkers fight this like war. I couldn't help anybody. I couldn't do anything. My doctor was like, absolutely not. Your
but you felt helpless. Oh,
I felt really helpless.
Yeah.
It was like just crazy. But that, being a nurse, it helps sometimes, Sometimes they'll take you like a little bit more seriously, but not really.
Like, I'm a nurse. Yeah.
Maybe if I was a male nurse.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I just want to circle back to what you said before too, if you're okay with elaborating about how going through it, you were in survival mode. And then after, did you feel that like crash? Was it like a depression you felt or anxiety?
Oh, absolutely both.
Oh,
I mean, if your mental health, isn't great, if you're not doing anything for your mental health before cancer, which I wasn't, meditating. I wasn't,
you were a busy mom,
I
agree,
wasn't
and a nurse. Yes.
meds. I wasn't on anything. I was just,
Yeah.
living day to day,
Yeah.
dealing with whatever life decided to throw next. And I had 3 kids. I was like so much to be grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
So I was fine. But then you go through cancer and then you come out the other end and you think you're going to be like this person. I don't know if it's media or just what everybody puts on social media. Like after cancer, you're going to be this like healthy person. And you're just so happy and
euphoric.
just to be alive.
I know what you mean, like euphoric every day.
Like I beat cancer. Everything is wonderful. And you know what? I feel almost guilty saying it out loud. But I didn't feel that way. I felt, first of all, I felt sorry for all the people that didn't survive.
You had guilt, survivor guilt.
Yeah, so you feel survivor guilt. And then you're going back to your life. And, I work with really sick patients at my job. And I was looking at them like, this could be me. Like, what if you're always thinking about reoccurrence?
Yeah. Yes. Oh my God, I can imagine.
I mean, I had an MRI in my brain just because I was having headaches. And I was like begging the doctor. And I was like I need to know like if these headaches are what that, and they were just fine, thank God.
But I love that you advocated. You're like, I have to. Yeah. I need this. Yeah.
Yeah, and luckily I found a primary after all was said and done because I didn't have. That's another thing. People should really get a primary doctor.
Good one, right?
We don't when we're young because like our OBGYNs. So when we're having kids, they're take care of everything. But I didn't have a primary through all this, so I was depending on this specialist and this one and the oncologist for everything. But anyway, when I got the MRI of the brain, he was excellent and he's been really good. When I first came, I went back to work and thought I was fine. Because physically I was okay.
They cleared you, right? You're like, I'm cleared. I'm going back.
But seeing like people sick and sometimes you see people, maybe you want to do better for them, but it's like it's not possible, with staffing and everything else. And you see people you want to treat them the way you'd want to be treated all the time.
Yeah. Like a nurse, dedicated nurse for them 24/7.
I can't always do that. And then one day I felt so bad for this patient and I just put myself there for a minute and I had like this breakdown, the crying. And I, came home, I was wrong. Like I can do this. Anyway, I spoke to a psychiatrist and I started antidepressants and, it helps get along, and, talking to her.
That's awesome.
And I started, meditating a lot and yoga, stretching and that kind of stuff just to clear my mind.
You have to take care of you. I love that. You were
taking care of me in some ways, but then it's also the flip side of it when you get depressed after something like this. You're like, oh, I gotta like YOLO, like I gotta like live
it up.
Yeah, I never know when it's gonna come back and hit you.
Yes. Yeah.
So I mean, overeating and
I know
things like that. People don't, they think that when you're done with cancer, you're gonna be this epitome of health.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself because you don't want the cancer to come back. But it's not always that perfect.
Easy. It's not black and white, right? Like nothing is black and white. Yeah.
No, I felt like, oh my gosh, if I'm on this, if I'm on a diet and I'm eating like carrots and vegetables and, like missing out. And then, in a month I could be, in a hospital bed with a tube beating.
What was the point of that? Yes.
Yeah. What was the point of this? Like, do you know what I mean? So stuff like that in your head.
It's like a mind fuck. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm still working on myself. This year, I think it's going to be the physical year. I just, was more working on myself mentally in the past few years.
I just want to say I admire you so much because.
Oh, no.
No, I do. And you need to hear it. No, but I do because you went through it into COVID. And I was so worried for you. Right. And you did it. And even though you obviously have, had depression about it, you are a survivor. Liz, you're beautiful inside and out. And I admire you so much. Like, I just want you to know that.
you all would do the same. You might
I would love to think I would, but I feel like I would crumble into a hole and die. I don't know. Like,
you just, it's just like, just keep swimming like Dory. You just
It's so true.
yeah,
Hold my fin.
Yeah, just
you just keep going. You just,
Yep.
what you do, because you got kids, your family, and you have so much, so much to live for.
Yeah.
Life is not always, going to be happy and
or fair.
No.
Or fair.
No.
But you just keep moving.
Meditation was like a huge piece for me too, and like getting, just getting centered back in life.
Yeah.
Some crazy stuff. Like I literally will push meditation.
I love that.
I just love it. Even this morning, like even if it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes, before your kids get up, like
your mind needs a reset sometimes. Our minds are crazy. They keep going.
Yeah. Well, like you're a mom of multiples, like, we have our kids, we have our lives, our business, our partners, whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
and I feel like for you, it was probably hard to decompress. You went through all that, but you're a mom. So how are you going to decompress from all that and like process it? You didn't have time to decompress.
No, I didn't. I didn't think I really needed to either. Like I was kind of in denial that I like even needed to, but it comes back and it shows up, and now, I mean, with meditation, honestly, and you're right, it's made a huge, huge difference. I mean, I did it like every day for like a year.
That's awesome.
And now, I mean, I'm on the very lowest dose. I could be like antidepressant. So it's like trying to wean off them. But I really accredit meditation to that and seeing things with a different perspective.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I don't think I might, need those things, forever.
It'd be awesome if
you do, that's okay too. But I feel like meditation does help, change your perspective.
I wish they would bring that more into medicine. Like, how cool would it be part of your like treatment? It was like, okay, chemo and meditation right after, like something.
100%.
Yeah. But I 100%. I mean, I wish where I worked was more of like a holistic type stuff for nurses, but nurses need a lot of meditation. So do patients too, but nurses should.
I could imagine all the things you guys see.
Like bow down. I could
have like a meditation
room. I know. And I hope things change and people realize that the mind is so important and we need to give it space. And that would be cool if there was a meditation room for nurses and patients.
Right.
Like,
you know what, for anybody in any business, like it's very stressful these days. So, I mean, when you're stressed out, I wish there was like somewhere, people could go. And there are some hospitals that are doing that.
That's so cool. Really?
Yeah. For nurses.
I love that.
I don't think any around here, but
I'll make its way.
Read somewhere there's like a massage. I'm like, where is this?
Oh my God. Right. Can I work there?
Well, I was going to say, as part of like your YOLO, because listen, I think you do have to YOLO a bit because life is precious. And, something I read was like, as a currency, we don't know where that ends, so you do have to take advantage of the days that you are here and doing things. Obviously, you're a dedicated mom and family, but I think it's so important to do things for ourselves sometimes too, like,
that make us feel good.
Yeah. Like this may not work for everybody, but like, I went through something. My husband passed away some years ago, right? But for me, like I needed time and space to like connect with me, and like so I went away by myself,
and you needed
for
it.
4 days, and like that was the reset I needed for me,
for your clarity.
I go once a month and I get a massage, like so.
You should,
see, like too, like it's okay to do those things for you
and be selfish.
Yes, like you should show up better for everybody else.
Well, that's what it is too, because I felt like I was going a little YOLO like the other way. Moderation is important, and if I'm overeating or having too many glasses of wine, you have to listen to your body too, because your body goes, wait a minute, slow down.
Yep.
You need to be able to keep up with your kids, and you need to be able to have the energy to play with them, and
and feel good. Yeah,
and obviously I want to like live long enough to see them go through everything. And, so you have to just find that balance.
Yeah. And cancer is scary. Thank you for talking about it with such bravery.
Truly.
Liz and I have a friend who unfortunately had brain cancer and she passed away. And it's
also a young person.
Yes, young.
Very.
Like cancer is not.
I know it doesn't discriminate.
An old person.
No,
right.
Doesn't discriminate, and it just made me realize after she went through all that, like in a way, yes, YOLO. Like you have to, if you're afraid to do something, like feel the fear and do it anyway in a type of way, because it's like life is short. So go after what makes you happy.
Yep.
Do what fills your soul. Like you have to do it because you don't know when the train is going to end.
Yep.
No, you don't. I mean, it could really, that's what me and my husband talk about all the time. Like I'm sitting here worrying about brain cancer and stuff like that. But
yeah. And I get it. And that's a real fear because I know
you don't know.
Yeah. Like obviously for you, I'm sure there's PTSD, right? Of cancer. Like,
yeah, no, definitely. Because that's the reoccurrence thing. It's like, you're always like, oh, what's this? This is cancer. This is, you know, and
you're waiting for the other shoe to drop in a way.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I push it back and I'm like, ignore it. But I also, like I said, you got to listen to your body. But again, you got to find that balance where you're not like overly,
living in fear where you're not
syndrome, everything's wrong with you. Because then you won't be able to live your life either.
Yes, if you're overly paranoid. It's hard.
It's balancing. Yeah. That's what life is, right?
Motherhood, all of it. Yeah. But that was, crazy story. And I just, thank you for sharing it. That whole journey of like, I guess, diagnosis to surgery and chemo, that was all a year, that whole thing? Yeah,
over the year. Yep. Yeah, wow. I was back to work by the end of 2020. So
wow.
Yeah, that's amazing. And like, you know what I will say, and I hope you did this, like you have to lean on your family, right? When you're going through that, did you accept that?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I had much of a choice, but but luckily my parents were in the area.
They just that wild. I helped them move from Old Bridge.
They literally just moved.
Not wild. Yeah. Like it was wild how the universe did deliver.
Seriously, it's so crazy.
You needed them, and they were there.
Yeah, I was very lucky because they could help watch the kids when Nick took me to chemo.
Right? Yeah, it was a team effort.
Oh, absolutely. And like one time, my dad drove me when I was really sick to the hospital because the kids were like a little, they didn't want daddy to leave. They were missing him. So, I mean, like, it was really a blessing to have my parents,
and who better to have around too, like your parents.
I know.
Like,
want to cry to your mom and dad.
Right. Like, I don't care how old you are. Yes. Sometimes you just want, like, you need your parents, me and your dad to do.
I was really, really happy to have my parents close by. And my mom, I felt bad because it worried them. Again, you don't want to be a burden or make them worry because,
Yes, because you asked for breast
I know,
cancer. Right.
Not funny. Yeah.
I'm going to put you guys through this.
I know. But, you don't want to put.
I know. It's that mom guilt again. That's,
Mom, it's always guilt.
Yeah.
We feel like guilty.
Yeah. How was like work, like when you needed to take this time off? No one, obviously, like, was there any sort of, I don't know, annoyance with that?
When I was leaving, no. When I was leaving, there was, there was a lot of like change in hands at that time, but there was this really strict chief nursing officer, and I thought she would be like really weird about it and not good about it, but she was excellent. I mean, first she rearranged my whole, because first I really didn't want to work before COVID got out of control. She rearranged the whole schedule. Feels so bad. She rearranged the whole schedule around my chemo.
Wow.
Then I obviously when COVID started to get really bad,
there was no chance. Yeah.
Can't work. I want to work,
but it's too risky. Yeah.
I can't work. And she was like, I totally understand. She, we got the paperwork while I was gone, another change in hands. So that was more difficult coming back because you only get a certain amount of family leave.
Oh, wow.
And things were extended because of COVID for me. Like I left, but then I had to pause at one point my chemo because my white blood cells were so low. And then when I was trying to then I got my surgery, they had called me and said, your family, your family leave is up. Yeah, it was kind of a little bit of a nightmare because I literally was 2 days out from the surgery.
Oh my God.
And the new HR person, and she's like, so are you gonna do separation or go per diem? And I'm like, what does a separation mean?
Yeah.
Basically, it's
to be discussing while you're about to have a surgery too.
Right. It was basically asking me if I was gonna, they didn't want to keep my full-time position, and they were in the nicest way. But I did have to call the New Jersey Board of Labor to get some clarification on that because I was a little bit concerned, and they were really helpful.
And you had to do this like while you're like, trying to get prepared for surgery.
Insurance, and I was just worried about so many things because, I needed follow-up care, and, you're worried. You're just like, oh my God, I have access to you're worried about the kids not having insurance, everybody else. So, I mean, she did say, oh, you'll have insurance till the end of the year, even if you quit or whatever. And anyway, it was even like the principle of it. I was a little upset because I put the company for like 11 years already at that.
Yep. So, loyalty means nothing.
Right. And I was like, gosh, but in the end it worked out. They spoke to their supervisor, and then it turned out they just needed a date on which I was coming back. I said, oh, if that was that easy, why didn't you tell me from
I know, you put me through this stress. I hate that about insurance and obviously corporate, and it's
a corporation. I work for a corporation. I don't work for.
So they were taking their orders. Yeah.
Right. Crazy. So, nursing is not a 9 to 5, but you still have to deal with corp. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And it's like one of those things where it's like, don't you have any sensitivity? This is a crazy life situation. And like,
what they had mentioned, the Board of Labor had mentioned that the teachers were going through this, like that they were having trouble, like, because they had taken FMLA because they got sick for COVID and they were running out of FMLA, and a lot of them were having trouble. Like they were getting laid off, and, it was like totally ridiculous because, COVID should have extended.
Yeah. Right.
If it extended so many other things and everybody was,
I wish we had a system where we took care of our sick better, like people who need it. Right. Like, can't we just come up with a more of a compassionate care? Like you weren't trying to milk the system. You legit were going through something very serious. And I just wish there was a better system to take care of people like that.
Well, just a more empathetic.
I know.
Caring, so bottom line focused.
Yeah. You have to advocate for yourself. I'll tell you that. And I see a lot, like elderly people that can't advocate for themselves. It's really
sad. So
So just, when you're sick and young, you can advocate for yourself. But when you're sick and
that's when you need somebody else to keep being an eye for you.
Yeah, right. So.
Oh, well, hopefully we'll see some positive changes.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And, change starts with just, us.
Talking about it.
Talk about it. You have to, talk to your doctor and push for things. The worst thing they can say is no. And you second opinion.
Yeah.
Your insurance allows that, you won't get.
They should.
Opinion.
Yeah.
For most insurance companies, I'm pretty sure, like, as long as the second opinions within, network, you can get a second opinion. And, if you don't know, reach out to your insurance company, find out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take the time.
Yeah. Take the time. And, your life, your health is worth it. Mm-hmm. It's worth it. Even if you get a bill. You pay that bill in the future sometime. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's worth it. Keep pushing for yourself.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you so much.
I love you and I admire you.
Well, thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it. I was telling Jen, like, if it's just, one person decides to go get their mammogram or push for that MRI, then it was truly worth it.
100%.
Is it okay if we share your social? If anybody wants to message you and reach out to you, if they have any questions about what's the best way they can find you? Is it Facebook or Instagram?
Either one. My Instagram is like the Liz1113.
Cool.
I don't go on Instagram as much. Facebook. I go on Facebook more because I'm like a scroller.
We'll tag you. And if anybody,
with the reels and all that.
But we'll tag you, and if you're okay with anybody reaching out if they have questions or.
No, anyone can ever reach out to me. Just give them what I know.
Yeah. Well, you're an amazing nurse and mom and awesome survivor.
Oh, totally.
Also very amazing that you're even doing this. This podcast amazes me because I am.
Thank you. Women power.
I appreciate it. But that's it, right? Like you said, if this story today reaches even just one person,
right,
kind of like it has evolved into this beautiful community that we're trying to create, and that's exactly it. We want to help our fellow women out there.
There really is me. This is awesome. I've watched quite a few episodes, and you guys are great. And you've all been through something, and it's great to hear, that we're not alone.
Yes, we can do so much. Yeah, we're powerful. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you all for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe.
Take care. See y'all next week.
Thank you.